especially because it's a weekend today and all of you must have been enjoying your weekend. But don't worry, this session is going to be extremely engaging. We'll try to make it very fun. We have included a lot of activities for all of you and a lot of thinking-based activities where we want you to think about different things. We want you to answer different questions and learn more about debate. This is a debating masterclass in about 2 hours. We plan to cover debates, MUNs, their inherent basics, an introduction to a slight debating format, and nothing very complicated because this is the first session. We want all of you to just get an introduction to debate. We don't want you to be definitely scared of doing something like debates and MUNs because they are a challenging activity. They are rigorous, but we want you to know, especially on just a college basis and just a profile making basis, there are inherent, important, and very valuable activities that will boost up your college profile a lot for getting admitted into the top 10, 20, 30 best universities in the US and in the UK. So once again, to everyone who's just joining in, we're so grateful you're here. Thank you so much for joining in. And we hope you're excited as well, as much as us. We have spent over a week preparing for this session. All of these slides have been created by the team at the Team Debater. And obviously, if you turn on your cameras, that'll be awesome. If you're not able to because of any internet issues, that is okay. However, certificates, as mentioned, will be issued to those who are turning on their cameras. We're continuously monitoring you, taking your pictures. Obviously, all of this stuff is also for our social media, but more importantly, to be able to give certificates to the people who have actually participated in the session and those who are engaging with debates and MUNs, because ultimately debates and MUNs are about speaking up and you need to participate in order to become better. But thank you so much for joining in. We'll get started with the session now. Before we get started as well, someone from our team will be putting in the link in the chat where you can become and volunteer with the Team Debater. So this is the link that will come in the chat for you to be a part of our team. The current members of our team, we have over 30 plus members in our team who are working with the Team Debater, who because of whom we have this PPT, the background music that was playing, and the entire plan for the session, our social media, everything has been done by a team of 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds. It's just teenagers doing the work. There's absolutely no adult involvement. And because we're a non-profit, we don't have any sponsors. We're just supported kindly by high school moms, but there's no sponsor backing up. There's no external third-party organization that we are being outsourced to. All the sessions are completely for free. We spend hours making a session ready. We spent over the last 2 weeks making the session for all of you. And so if you want to become a part of our team, obviously we give recognitions, we give you LORs, we give you certificates for working with us. If you work for over 6 months with us, we give you a LOR signed by me and signed by Mr. Abhishek Gupta for working with the Team Debater. If you want to join, fill in the form that has just been put in chat. That's the form to volunteer with the Team Debater, and you can join in there. Before we get started, we can go back to the previous slide and just know a little bit about the Team Debater, who we are, and what is this organization before we just get started with the session for today, the Debating Masterclass. So in very simple terms, as it says on the slide itself, we're a non-profit organization that is trying to teach and transform debate education for all school students in India, especially because we want to target tier 2, tier 3 cities in India, and we want to make debate more accessible to them. Debate is an important and inherent activity for building up your college profile. Not only more than that, debate can also build up your academic skills in the real life that you may need to talk to people, skills of speaking, skills of thinking, and a lot of other important skills that debates and MUNs just build up in a person. And so we, as part of the Team Debater, plan on making that kind of education free for all of you. There are currently organizations in India that charge you for doing debate, that charge you for learning debate, and there are organizations that are teaching you courses on debate, but they charge you for that. But that's just something that I like to think of as a flaw, because debate and MUN are an activity where you just need to think, and the only tool you need is your mind. So people should not be charging you for thinking. People should not be charging you for using your own brain, and that's why we don't want to charge you. And everything we do here is for free. The PPT we showed you is for free. You can feel free to take in screenshots. It will be better if you have a notebook and you take notes of the session, because debates and MUNs will be in person, and most of them are going in person. So you should have the ability to write notes. However, for now, screenshots are also fine. We will share across these slides with everyone in the session today as well. But we want to make it free for everyone here. We don't want to charge for anything here. It's being created by team debaters and individuals who have been debating for a very long amount of time, experts in debate as well, just for free. Nothing and none of this is going to be charged. That's why it's a non-profit organization. And more importantly, here are the 5 goals that are part of our organization. All of them have been mentioned here. The 5 main goals are accessibility, empowerment, education, independence, and excellence. You can read our mission and our vision. This is also presented on the PPT. I'm not going to read it out. It's very simple and very effective, but I'll quickly explain what the 5 main goals of this organization is and what do we plan to do in India by teaching debates and more importantly, teaching MUNs and debates at the same time to different communities in India as well, specifically because a lot of different communities have no access to debate, some access to debate, and a great amount of access to debate. We want to target those who have absolutely no access to debate, because ultimately helping them and boosting up their thinking and their ability to speak is what can help them gain social mobility, help them gain different jobs, and helping the most poor, most vulnerable is the most important goal for us as part of the teen debater. So even if you have been debating for 10 years, even if you're the best debater in the world, the best MUN in the world joining this session, that is totally okay. We don't want you to only learn debate with us. We have an opportunity for you to work with us and teach debate to other students. You fill the form in chat that has just been pasted, the form of becoming doing the volunteer work with the teen debater, and you can fill that form in and you can join our volunteer organization and work with us as well. The current form that's been filled out has been sent for the membership, so you can obviously fill that and become a member, but I will just put in chat the form where you can become a part of the teen debater volunteering group, and you can work with us as well as part of the teen debater. So you'll put that up later as well. But if you fill that form, you can join our team. That's also just been pasted in chat. Thank you, Shruti, for pasting that in. But you can fill that form up and you can join our team and work with us. So the 5 main goals of our organization is accessibility, empowerment, education, independence, and excellence. Accessibility, like I shared, we want to make debate accessible to tier 2, tier 3 cities, people who have no access to debate, because they deserve to learn debate the most. They deserve to learn MUNs the most. They need to gain knowledge about what's happening in the world to be able to get better jobs, to get better access to different things that they did not know about, and to be able to make better decisions. The second thing is empowerment. We want people to be empowered through debate, and we want you to be empowered independently through debate, which means you should be able to practice debate on your own. You should be able to get debate education from your peers. You should be able to learn from feedback. And so if you join our Discord group, the link will just be put in chat right now, but there's a Discord group that we have. Discord is basically WhatsApp, but now for teenagers. If you join in that group, there are over 200 people already in that Discord group, and everybody there is ready to give you feedback, ready to give their own thoughts, and they'll all be helping you in becoming a better debater and MUNer. That's why empowerment is an important goal. Then we have education. Education means simply as it is, we want you to get educated about debate. We want you to learn how to do debates, how to do MUNs. We have over 7 years worth of resources full of free from the debates in the past, from MUNs in the past, tips, tricks, how to win debates, how to win MUNs, videos of different debaters, videos of different MUNers, giving different speeches, and obviously drills that we want to give to you to become better debaters and MUNers. The fourth part is independence. We want this organization to become self-independent, which means if you see one of our sessions in the future as well, you will see that I'm not the only speaker and there is no one consistent speaker. We will be bringing in a lot of different speakers. We will bring in people from our own team because we want different people to lead different parts of our organization, give different kind of sessions, and obviously work ahead and part of our organization as well. So there's no one person leading the organization. I'm just starting it, but we want all of you to be coming here and give the sessions yourself. Give any kind of experience you have with people who have no experience about debating. And that's why this will be a self-independent organization. There's no one person leading this, and this will continue even if people leave, even if people join in and works at this. That's the best management structure we have as part of the teen debater. And the last part of our goal, our 5 main aim, is excellence. At the end of the day, we want you to win debates. It's not important to win debates for college. I've seen people get it, and there are people who've gotten into Harvard, Stanford, especially into the best UK schools as well, like Cambridge and Oxford, and Cambridge and Oxford and University of Durham, LSE, Imperial, KCL, all of these kind of great schools for colleges. They've gotten in without winning a single debate, but doing debates and MUNs as well consistently for over 2-3 years, for over 5 years. That is what's needed. That is excellence. So of course, we want you to win debates at a national, international level, win MUNs from Harvard, win MUNs from Yale in India as well. But more importantly, we want you to have the excellence of consistency. Being consistent in this activity is true excellence. It's not about winning, because the more you're consistent, you will automatically gain all those awards that you want to put on your college resume as well. But that's about the teen debater. Let's move on to the next part of a session, actually get started with the session. So the first thing we want to know is, what is debate? And what exactly do you think debate means? So this is the first question we wanted to ask everyone here. And then obviously we will tell you what is debate actually. But the first thing is we want to know from you what you think debate is. And so Yana, you can stop sharing. And anyone who has a response to what they think debate is, please raise your hand and we will take in responses from all of you. I will just present a whiteboard as well while all of you are giving your responses so that we can note it down and directly think about what you guys' responses. As we told you, this will be a class where we want your interaction because ultimately debates and MUNs require you to speak up. So please feel free to speak up. Nobody's judging you here. And if you're scared someone will say some random stuff, nobody can. Everybody's unmuted. Everybody's muted and everybody will only be unmuted once we let them unmute. So please feel free to raise your hand up. The more you participate, the better it'll be. I'm so glad that a lot of girls are participating. It's very, very important that we get girl debaters and girl MUNers. There are in comparison and in margin, if you just look at the stats, there are much less girl debaters than there are in MUNs than there are boys. So that's especially amazing. I'll just take in your responses to what you think debate is. So first person I have on my screen is Sahaj. I will just unmute you and please tell me what you think debate is.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah, so debate is something where different people come together on and they debate on a particular topic, whereas like different people put on their views and some people agree with that and some don't.
Okay, that's fair. There's no right or wrong response to this, so that's fair. Different people give their views and for/against. That's a very good answer. I'll take it from someone else. So, Akshara, yeah, what do you think debate is? Yeah.
Debate for me means that different people put up their views which can be opposing to some people and can be people for like those who agree with that view, and it is basically a formal discussion in which like in MUNs in model United Nations, people from different countries like come up and they present their view regarding a global topic, or basically in debates that are done locally, it can be done on a local topic.
Perfect. Awesome. So the main part I'm taking from that is formal discussion. That's a new edition and that's a good edition. Debates are formal. MUNs are formal. It's not a hobby. I mean, it is a hobby for you as a person, but it's not something that you will just go and randomly just talk to people. You can't refer to them in a very informal tone, and you can't just think of this as a everyday Sunday activity. It is a very formal activity. It's an academic activity. So there are procedures and rules that you have to follow in. Let's take the final response. I'll take it from Misha. Go ahead and give us your response and we'll note that in.
In my opinion, a debate is where two or more groups of people come together to have a constructive discussion or a conversation about a main topic, and they each have different points of views, and they discuss the advantages and disadvantages or the different points, and to come to a final decision.
Awesome. Perfect. For everyone else, you can keep raising your hands. We might take in a final response, but for now, this is enough. These are good responses. And let's just actually look at what debate is, and let's look at these responses that we got from people. So obviously, debates do have different views, and MUNs do have different views. There is obviously a difference between what a debate is and what an MUN is, but I'm just talking about debate as a skill in general. So you don't need to be confused because debates obviously have a format. MUNs have a much wider range of views that you can get. In MUNs, you get different countries. In debates, you just have a for and against side on a specific topic. So if an MUN was a collection of debates, a debate would be just a very specific part of an MUN on a very specific topic. Just to clear the difference. But we'll obviously talk about the difference between MUNs and debates later on in this session. But for now, let's look at the responses we got from people. So the first thing was, right, it does have different people putting up their views, and it does have people putting up their views for and against the topic. For example, a topic could have been, should the death penalty be abolished? So this can very well be a debate topic. This can also come up in any MUN for that matter as well, for capital punishments, and generally an MUN just on the criminal justice system and the capital punishment itself. But this is a very, very famous debate topic as well. A couple of debates have been done, and by a couple I mean like hundreds, 200s of debates have been done on just this topic itself, the death penalty. It's a very, very famous capital punishment. It's given when there are high order crimes done in any state. And there are specific regulations to when a death penalty should be given to a person. Obviously, it is done upon by the court of law and how which side wins the case and on what grounds should the death penalty be given. But the topic itself was on the fact that should such a high level of punishment, which obviously cannot be reversed, a punishment in which a person is directly just killed for doing some crime, should that even exist? Is that even a good thing? There are sides to this where I talk about it is a good thing because someone who was murdered or someone who murdered like 10, 20 different people should definitely be given the death penalty. They've done so much harm to humanity as a whole. They've done so much harm to society that it principally makes sense to kill them. And that's where the death penalty should exist. That's the basis of why the death penalty existed, right? But the side against would probably say, even if a person killed 20, 30 people, it's still bad for us to kill them because what makes us different from killing them, right? At the end of the day, if we also as society do the same crime as a criminal who did some crime against society, what's the difference between that criminal and society as a whole? So should the death penalty still then exist if we are also going to be blamed anyways because we are also killing the criminal itself? Those are two different views, two different ideas on why the death penalty should be abolished or why it should not be abolished. So it makes sense that a debate is a formal discussion where we have a for side and an against side talking about different kind of ideas based on a very specific topic. So the first idea is correct. Different people is not necessarily going to mean that there are different views. So you don't mean that there can be a view where someone says, okay, I'm in support of the death penalty, but I'm just not in support of maybe a death penalty by hanging. I'm in support of a death penalty by, let's say, lethal injection, right? You can't say this in a debate. You can't do this in an MUN because maybe different countries have different views on how they put the death penalty. But especially in the case of a debate itself, you can't say that, okay, I will do the death penalty this way or this way. That's called squirreling the debate. We will talk about this later, but you can't make up a debate very specifically in what you want to debate about. You have to debate the actual debate that's been given to you, and you can't make up certain points on what you want to do the debate. So different people to that extent in a debate only means that there are three people. Let's, in the most simplest format, if it's a 3v3 debate, there are three people who support for the topic, three people who are against the topic, and these three people will exclusively support the death penalty being abolished in all its senses. So irrespective of it being a lethal injection or by hanging or by some electrocution or any other kind of method that you're giving someone the death penalty, all of that format is going to be abolished. While someone that's opposing might say, okay, the death penalty will exist today, but in most cases, the death penalty now has become by lethal injection because that is less painful and we don't want the criminal to feel a lot of pain. So that's why we'll take the lethal injection one and not hanging or any other method. That is fine. But then the against side can't come up here and say, but we can also do hanging or we can also do electrocution because that might also be a fair way and give different reasons. You have to support a strict side. There can be nuances in that one side, but there is only one extreme like side that you're supporting and one extreme side you're against. So you can't be choosing a very mixture of opinions in a debate, unlike in MUN where you can. But the difference is even in an MUN, you still support your own country's side and you can't be just supporting different variety of views. You still have to hold your own country's ground, your own country's stance, as we call it in MUNs. So even if you have different people in an MUN, you still have to support one particular stance or a particular group of ideas that you believe in as a country, or you have to support as a side in a debate. So that's what a debate is. The second thing was a formal discussion. This also makes sense. A debate is a formal discussion. A debate is something that's supposed to be formal. It is not informal. It is not somewhere we just give up random views. You speak for as long as you want. You speak whatever you want. You can say whatever you want to other people. There are certain rules. You can't say bad words to other people. You can't curse at other people. You can't obviously be aggressive. That might be harmful to other people. You can never speak for speak more than the given time limit. That's not allowed. There is a certain time limit to every speech. You can ask questions, but there is a certain way of asking questions as well. So it is a formal discussion. Much like what goes in the parliament, there are certain ways and certain regulations that even politicians have to follow while giving their speeches. And even in MUN, if you don't know, your chair or the person who is dictating the MUN, who's controlling the entire committee, will probably tell you to sit down, be quiet, because they want you to follow rules. So it is a formal discussion. These both are formal activities and you should treat them the same way you treat your subjects in your school, the same way you treat other extracurriculars. That's the same way you should be treating MUNs in debate. More importantly, MUNs and debates are sporting activities. They are considered as academic sports. They're not the same sport as football and cricket, obviously, but there are sports that require your brain and train your brain way more exclusively than even sports like chess. They require you to think in a far more directed view and a far more diverse view of different ideas as well. And the third thing was they have a constructive discussion. Someone mentioned this word. I like this word especially because constructive is a word used for speeches in debate. Constructive means the first speeches you give and the first three speeches or in different formats, basically the speeches that you give for supporting and going against your side in debates are called constructive speeches. And so that was a good term. Someone actually mentioned what constructive is. I mentioned the term constructive, which means you guys have a decent idea of what even debates are about. And that's a very good thing as well from the start. But yeah, these are constructive discussions where you have, and the final thing was you have to reach a final position. So in a debate and in an MUN, obviously the position that you reach, whichever side wins, whichever person wins the best delegate, is not what's going to happen in the real world. Obviously, these are imaginary discussions we are having. No impact on the real world is going to be created unless we actually did a discussion in the parliament about this, of course. However, final position being reached is a true thing. You have to come to some final consensus, and that is not decided by you. It's probably decided by the judge or the chair, the person who's marking you based on your speeches, who's noting your speeches down, and being fair to both sides in a debate, or being fair to all the delegates in an MUN. And based on what you say, based on what the other people say, based on what the other side say, then they give the award to that side or to that person. So if it's a debate, then 3v3 in between, there'll be one side that wins, and that's the final position that we think has won the debate. But there's obviously no one winning side. Every debate is made in a way that it's fair for both the for and against side. And so that doesn't mean that if there is a topic like the death penalty being abolished, and oh my God, there's only like a few countries that have the death penalty, so obviously the side that supports it being abolished is the better side. That's not true. In fact, more debates have been won against this motion, against the motion that the death penalty should be abolished, which means even if, let's say, 5 countries in the world today, very few countries in fact in the world have the death penalty, but let's say even 5 countries for that matter have the death penalty, you can still win from the against side, because statistics and all won't matter. Every side is made in such a way that it is fair and equal to any person who gets that side. It depends on what you say, how you say it, and more importantly, the analysis that you give in your content that helps you win irrespective of the side you're from. So there's no winning side. That's why there is no winning position that's already been determined. The position is reached by the judge, the person who's marking you based on what you say, and that's the side that wins in a debate. So these are all very good points. One important thing here that I want to just quickly mention as a very summarizing way of what a debate is, just not to confuse you guys, but in essence, a debate is a formal activity where two sides come up, give different analysis and ideas on those different sides, respond on these different sides, and finally a winning side is reached. That kind of a discussion is known as a debate. Debates require arguments, they require rebuttals, they require responding to other people's thoughts, what they're saying, they require refuting what they're saying, and obviously they require some form of comparison between each of the other sides. So a formal discussion in which two sides give different opposing views on a decided topic and compare each of these two sides and respond to two sides is what we call a formal debate. The same definition can be applied to an MUN as well, the debates we have in an MUN. The only difference that will come is that MUNs are a little bit differently formatted and there are different countries, but the idea of a debate as a skill is not going to change, and that is what a debate means. But very good responses that we got from everyone. This already shows me you guys are very, very smart and you already know what debates and MUNs are. So half of our job is already done in this session, and that's very good. But we'll move on to the next thing. So Jana, you can present it again and we can look at the next question that we have for everyone. Yeah. Awesome. So the next question we have is, what is logic and what is rationality? So everyone, just take a minute. You don't need to immediately respond. We got great responses on the debate idea. What is a debate? And that was good. It was a very simple and intuitive question. This is a more thinking-based question because these two words seem very similar. They probably have similar meanings, but we want to specifically give out a difference between each of them. So think about what logic means. Don't Google it up. Google definition is not going to help you anyways. Even if you Google it up, you're probably going to give me the wrong answer because we have an answer that we've prepared on our own that you will not find on Google because we have had experience with debates and that's not what Google says. So do think about it, and we want to just hear your thoughts on what you think is the difference between what is logic and what is rationality. So yeah, please raise your hands once you think you have an answer, but any answer is fine. Literally, whatever is the first thought that comes to your mind, just answer on that. And obviously, if you don't raise your hands, we'll pick you up also because we want you to answer. But if you raise your hand, that'll make it much easier for us, and we'll invite you guys to speak in. We'll just keep the slide on for a minute so that everyone can read. We can take up till 6:38 p.m. So we'll wait up till then. Still keep thinking, keep ideating on what you think logic means and what rationality means, and we'll ask you afterwards at 6:38. And obviously, people who have answered, we'll take in from new people in. So that's fine. If you've answered before, that's great. We've picked you up. But please try to think. Please try to give us your responses. You can put it up in chat as well. It's a good idea if you want to put it up in chat. But we're going to ask you in person because we want to take it from you in person directly. We want you to speak as well. So please raise your hands and please speak up. We'll wait up till like 20 more seconds and we'll take up your responses. Yana, you can stop sharing. I'll just share my whiteboard again. So the question again is on logic versus rationality. Let me just remove this. Obviously, take screenshots at any point. That is fine with us. This is all free material for you guys. So please feel free to take screenshots in at any point for any information we're giving. By the way, the recording of this entire session will be put up on YouTube. So please don't worry about missing any part of the session, having any internet connectivity issues. We have a very stable internet, so that's not going to be a problem with us. And everything that we're discussing here is being recorded and we'll formally put up on our YouTube page for you guys to always check in later for you to get an idea at any point. But yes, let's get started. I'll take up new people. Let's start with Siddharth. Siddharth, go ahead and just give us what you think logic and rationality means.
So logic is more knowledge-based, like a set of rules which you would follow and make decisions off of. Whereas rationality is more of morals and emotions, where it's not necessarily knowledge-based, but what you feel is right and what you feel isn't.
Okay. Fair response. I'm not going to comment on it right now because we want to get responses from other people as well. But that's fair. Let's take one from Anushka. Go ahead.
I personally think that logic, it's like kind of like a guide that helps us understand things better. And it also it also helps us in making good decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think.
Okay, so logic and rationality is a guide to make decisions. Fair. Let's take a response from someone else. Lavi, go ahead. What do you think logic and rationality means?
Okay, so I think that rationality, like if you think with rationality, in rationality you can use logical thinking, whereas in logical thinking you can't necessarily use rationality.
Okay, that's a very good response. So these two are like quite counterintuitive.
So like you can use critical thinking as well as creative thinking in rationality.
Right. Fair. So we will just put that up. Let me just say, so logic can have actually I'll just dictate this directly. So that's a good response. And we'll take one final response in from Sai. Go ahead.
So what I think is that logic is where you cover all aspects first and then make a decision, whereas rationality is where you think like you go with the majority of people.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. And now we'll actually explain what logic and rationality means. To be very simple and very honest, we don't want you to think of a difference, and there should not be any difference in a debate itself on what logic and rationality is. The whole idea of doing this activity was for you to try to create a difference between very, very similar terms, because in a debate as well, you will find that the side opposing you or the side or like the person opposing your thoughts, etc., might have very similar views, and there is a very thin line of difference between one side and the other side because the world is very nuanced and it's very hard to conceptualize a very broad topic into just two sides. So there might be at points in the debate, you have to create small differences between things that are very similar to show why your side is still better than the other side, because those small differences are what create the tangible impact for you to win a debate. And so the idea was logic and rationality are very, very similar terms. Logic itself, as someone said, are rules. Logic is not necessarily the rule. It's not, so we're not trying to create a game. So logic itself is the process that you think you should be following in order to be able to prove something. Logic is not necessarily rules, because rule means something that's stringent and strict that you have to follow. Logic is a little more abstract because we cannot like conceptualize logic as proper rules. On Google, it will tell you logic is a set of rules, but in philosophy, logic is not defined as a set of rules, because in debate philosophy in general, we don't have any way to figure out, okay, this is how we can actually make logic, and no one will give you on a plate that these are the steps you follow to make logic, because there is literally no way for us to be able to define even what a logic means because it's something so abstract. So in general, just to be able to intuitively make sense out of this, logic is your ability to be able to prove something, to be able to make sense out of something, and more importantly, to be able to reason something. Rationality, on the other hand, is whenever we put logic into something and make sense out of something, as long as it is correct and makes like well-reasoned sense in today's world, then we consider it to be rational. So not all, as someone pointed this out very well, not all logic is rational, but all rationality would probably be based on someone's logic. And that also may not be logical by what we consider logical today. For example, and there's a very good example to this. Let's say I think it's logical for us to say, that every person should have the right to education, right? I think that's pretty logical. We can prove that principally why that's true. We can prove the practical benefits of why education can increase the innovation that we have, can increase research and development, make quality of life better, can lead to more employment, more people in society means more people contribute to society, all of that stuff, and why society progresses more when more people have education, why people deserve to have a right to education. There are a couple of arguments to this, right? So it makes logic sense for us to say, okay, everyone should be educated. Now that statement logically can be proved why everyone should be educated. Is that statement itself, like everyone should be educated, rational? Probably, because in today's world, it is rational for us to say that all people should be educated. Now let's take something a little more controversial. I say, for example, all humans should cease to exist. All humans should die. That itself is a debate, by the way. But in logic, we can prove why all humans should cease to exist, right? We can prove by having no humanity at all, or having all humans just not exist today, would probably be good for the world. And we can put up a lot of logical sequence of steps to prove why having no humans could be better for the environment, could be better for animals, why having no person to just think so much, and by having no animals that can think so much, we probably would have created a better world, because we wouldn't have jealousy, emotions, we wouldn't have such problems that we create because of our own needs and greeds and all that kind of stuff. So we can probably make logic sense on why all humans should not exist. But is that statement rational? Probably not. We all don't want to die, obviously. And there are a lot of statements that would, like a lot of people that would say that statement is not at all rational. Humans should exist. Because in today's world, it makes us rational sense for us to say that we should all exist inherently. Another good example would probably be to say that you should not be able to you should not have, so a logical statement would probably be like, everyone should be able to identify as who they feel that they want to identify as. A rational statement would probably be the same. But another statement can be where someone says, so in general, like the main idea here is that whenever you make a logical statement may not always be in the rational basis. So we think like rational is a lot like a bigger group that you find in today's world, because everything can be proved in some or the other way, but there are certain things that we want to say are rational and should be considered like right in all cases, even if they can't or cannot be proved. Like we tell you in society, it's good to be kind to others, right? There's obviously a very like simple logic to this. The better you are to other people, the better other people will be to you. The better you are to other people, less like disruptions will happen in society, less bad stuff will happen in society, the more kind you are as a person, right? But not only is that statement logical, it's also rational, and it is also inherently a rational, because we think it is good to follow the fact that we're all kind. So rationality itself is a much bigger bracket than logic, because like literally everything can be proved by logic. Logic is your ability to reason and prove anything, but rationality is that proof to be right or wrong. So is that proof itself a good thing or a bad thing? So when someone says emotions and morals here, they're very much correct on what rationality is. But just to make a little bit, like a little more clearer difference, it's not always going to be emotional to be rational. For example, if it's based on a war or some war is happening, or if it's based on some economic situation, not always do we consider emotions and morals to make rational choices. We also consider a lot of other principles that may not be just morals and emotions, that may be a little more practical. For example, let's say I want to do an economic policy tomorrow that gives an income, a basic income. This is known as universal basic income. You can research on this later on, UBI, where we give a certain amount of income to every person's account, like a bank account, every month, let's say. And that, like, let's say 1,000 rupees is going to every person's bank account every month. That's a policy for UBI, universal basic income. Now, morally and emotions can also come in this, sure. But the rationality behind why someone may want to like implement this topic would probably be based on maybe because the UBI can lead to a lot of people gaining enough money to survive a day, right? Them having enough money to be able to buy food, them having enough money to be able to buy some clothes or have some shelter or do some basic activities they need to do every day. So not all rationality is based on morals. It can still be based on practical grounds. And that's the difference I want to like just clear out at the start, because in debates, a lot of arguments you will be making will be practical and not all of them will be emotional or moral, because it's a little harder to make moral and emotional arguments because we can't conceptualize that in real world. We cannot manifest that in the real world. So for us to make any argument and have any tangible impact on an argument or a statement, we make it more when it is connected and grounded to the real world so that we can give impacts into the real world. But yes, that is what logic means. That is what rationality means. Rationality, again, is what is rational to a person. Logic is something that forms. Rationality can be based on logic, and logic is the idea and ability for you to be able to prove anything, but not all rationality is something that is going to be inherently logical. And more importantly, not all logic is also going to be something that we inherently follow as rational, because everything can be proved, everything can be tried to be proven, but there are only certain things that we consider rational as humans, and that's what we buy into as rationality. But more importantly, just to be clear, for all of your debates that you will be doing, you won't find a specific difference between rationality and logic. But if you just saw me trying to create a difference between rationality and logic, and just to give you an idea, I'm trying to create this difference a lot on spot and give you ideas on spot, because I cannot Google this up. I can't Google up the difference between logic and rationality, because Google will give me some made up definition on what logic means and what rationality means. But we still have to be able to figure this out, have our own differences created. And those kind of differences between something so similar between what logic and rationality is something that you have to do in debates and MUNs. Because if you are not able to create a difference between your side and the other side, or you as a country and all the other 100 countries that are there in the MUN, you probably won't win the MUN or debate, because unless there is something unique, beneficial about your side or your country, no one will vote for you in the MUN. No chair will give you marks. It is that uniqueness and the ideas that you're giving, the creative, tangible impacts that you're giving, that usually win in MUNs and usually win in debates. Because if there's nothing separating you from a bad world, then you're as bad as the bad world itself. And that's why it's important to create differences between such small things. But it's good. We got a lot of good response on what logic is, on what rationality is. And someone said it's a guide to make decisions. Obviously, yes, we use rationality and logic as humans to make decisions. That's something fairly obvious. And someone said logic covers all aspects. Rationality goes with majority of the people. Also very similar. Yes, rationality is your ability to be able to think on what is right and wrong, versus logic is just to be able to prove anything. So yes, logic does cover all aspects. Rationality only covers what people think is rational and what people think is good itself. But yes, that is what logic and rationality is. Once this is clear, and more importantly, Anna, you can go back to presenting the PPT. But once this is clear on what logic and rationality means, will you be able to make good debates possible? Because in all debates that you will be doing, you are not at all supposed to be putting in ever your own rationality and your own thoughts in an MUN or in debate. And that's why we want to make this explicitly clear. In every debate at MUN you go to, please, please, please don't put up your thoughts. As we say in debates and MUNs, the speaker's thoughts are not representative of their own beliefs or views, which basically means whatever statements you're giving are not going to be the statements you believe in personally and you think is true personally. So even if I'm debating on death penalty being abolished, personally, I might believe, yes, that is something that should be abolished, but I might be given the side where I have to support it being there. So that's why don't use your rationale in debates. Use the logic of the side that's given and use that logic to prove the rationale of the side, not your own. That's why we're trying to make this difference very clear, because a lot of people, when they're just starting debates and MUNs, try and get influenced by their own views of what they think is right and wrong and put that into debates and MUNs. Even if, let's say, you don't put in explicitly, okay, that personally you might be supporting the death penalty, but like even in the argument you're giving, you might be like, even if you're against the side and you have to like not support the death penalty, you might still be influenced by your own rationale. And it's obviously intuitively obvious for you to be influenced by your own rationale, because we cannot control that. But in debates, people still tend to give their own rationale and their own reasons, and that can mess up the debate itself. But you go ahead and give the views and thoughts of what you're actually supposed to be supporting and going against in the debate itself. Yeah, but that's very important. The third question we have for everyone was, why are debates important? But we don't want you to answer this question yourself. We will be answering this question explicitly for you in the next slide. But we do want you to think about this and why have you joined the session on what you think like the importance of debates are. But we'll go ahead and explain this to you because we're a little bit short of time and we want to cover a lot of different stuff as well. And all of the reasons are given on the slide itself. I'll explain one of them. I'll explain all of them individually quickly. But there should be reasons on why debate you think is important. A lot of these reasons will coincide with what you think debate means to you and what do you think MUNs mean to you and why are you doing debates and MUNs. But let's go ahead and let's just look at the debate reasons and MUN reasons on why we should be doing debates and MUNs, because that itself is another debate on why debates and MUNs are important inherently. But anyways, let's look at the reasons why we should be doing each of these activities. So we divided them as for our team into three main reasons, three brackets, because we think that these are the three most important brackets people consider while thinking of doing debates or MUNs or any sort of similar activities that they probably want to do. So the first reason we gave to all of the members of the Teen Debater is college value. And we think obviously we're all interested to go to a good college. We all want to get into great colleges. We're all self-interested people. And there's nothing wrong by being selfish of getting into a good college. It's a good thing for being selfish of going into a good college. That way you'll be putting a lot more effort in anyways. But debates and MUNs are very, very good activities, especially important activities that will get you into a good college. We put up 5 reasons for why we think this was true. There are a lot of other reasons as well that we cannot explain to you in the current matter of the session, because explaining college importance for debates is another session itself. But the fact that HSM is doing debates, HSM is explicitly talking about debates and other organizations, and debate is becoming so more popular in India. MUNs have been popular for the past 10 years and just like getting a lot more traction because of COVID and becoming in person now recently as well. MUNs and debates are explicitly something very important for college. But we put up on what debates and MUNs are and why they're important for college. The first reason was because it demonstrates leadership. It shows to college that you can speak up, you can give ideas, you're not scared of giving ideas. And anyone who's been doing debates and MUNs consistently for a certain amount of time will probably be a person who's become a lot more extroverted, who's okay with speaking, who's okay with taking charge, who's okay with giving ideas, and takes up a lot of initiatives, because these are skills that require you to go ahead and speak up. These are skills that require you to go ahead and talk about different things, irrespective of your own views, whatever you think. And you have to do this a lot on spot. The fact that this is on spot, immediately you have to give a speech in 5 minutes, immediately you have to give responses in 5 minutes, make this a lot more challenging activity. And that's why initiative and leadership is very, very valued from debates and MUNs, because they challenge you to think on spot, they challenge you to think quickly, and colleges value those kind of skills a lot, because if you're able to do that in a debate and an MUN, in the college itself, whenever they give you projects in the college, when they ask you to innovate something in the college, when they ask you to do something in the college, you'll do it far better because you've had debate and MUN experience, because they basically teach you a lot of social skills that'll be very, very valuable to you. The second thing was your ability to think. The fact that debates make you think a lot on spot, and the fact that they make you think a lot of like very, very diverse kind of views. Debates can make you think about economics, politics, pop culture, IR, environment, technology, AI, criminal justice, social justice. There are far too many topics that I can list right now to tell you what debates can actually cover. But the fact that they can cover so many different topics and you have so much knowledge, and because you can reason out literally anything on why maybe the government should implement this economic policy, why political relations must be disrupted between certain countries, why there should be, why the feminist movement should take certain actions, why the environmental movement should take certain actions. And so the fact that you're able to reason out between so many different things means that if you apply for a certain subject in a college as well, you will probably be able to do well in almost all subjects related to that field. Or to be able to shift to another subject, you will still be able to do well. Because if you can think for any topic like economics, and at the same time, you're able to think of like social media and pop culture, then you don't have to be, let's say, a good person at math to be able to think about economics. Obviously, you need mathematical logic. You need a lot of maths as well to be and to take economics as a subject. But irrespective, in general, if you can think about economics and you can think about pop culture, Taylor Swift, singers, actors today, and make debates on them, at the same time making debates on macroeconomics, on politics, then really it shows the fact that you can reason out so well as a debater and as an MUNer in so many different subjects. If the college decides to put you in a different subject, you'll still be able to do well. That's why the college values debate. The third thing was colleges themselves have debates and MUN unions, right? If you don't know, you can go to your college and you can ask them to start a debating club, or you'll probably go to a college because of the way and the rapid pace at which MUNs and debates are becoming famous. There's going to be a club at your college which does debates, which sends people out to international debating competitions or sends out to intercollegiate MUNs. And so for that, they need people who are debaters and MUNers, and they will accept people in that team because colleges get a lot of credit by people who win debates for those colleges and people who win MUNs for those colleges. The fourth thing is problem solvers. The more debates and MUNs do, the more problem solving skills you get of solving different variety of kind of problems from economics to pop culture, like I said. And so if you're able to solve problems so well about real world application, real world challenging problems that people still can't solve today, and you're able to think about them at such a young age and such quick pace by being able to do them on spot in college, when you deal with a lot of pressure, you'll be far more like be able to handle that kind of pressure instead of like succeeding to that pressure itself, because you're a debater and you've understood the challenging ability to solve problems on spot immediately as well. And the last thing was you understand a lot more topics than other people, because by doing debates and MUNs, you'll be exposed to so many topics that you have a lot more knowledge than an average individual, just because you've been debating and MUNing. And note in all of these 5 things, did I ever like mention the fact that you have to win a debate? I did not. Like I never told you that you have to win a Harvard debate or you have to win an Oxford debate to go into college. All of these 5 different reasons talk about just doing debates and MUNs, which really show the fact that when you're applying for college, when you're putting your college application, there has to be absolutely no reason why you have to win a debate to go into that college. But if you are able to prove to the college that you can think well in your essays, you can do well for the college in their debates, you can solve a lot of problems, you have so much knowledge that you put that in your essays, that is what college values so much, and that is what is going to get you into the college itself, not winning debates and MUNs. The second thing was academic value. The more debates and MUNs you do, obviously the more knowledge you will have, and that will help you a lot in your school subjects as well, because debates aren't limited to just social sciences. They're definitely not limited to only humanities. You have so many debates on technology, so many debates on AI, so many debates on math, so many debates on sciences, so many debates on just physics and chemistry, and a lot of debates that require knowledge of this. They require you to research on this. So that if you just do debates on them, you'll have a lot of knowledge to actually go into these kind of like topics as well. And obviously the second one is the reasoning ability. The more debates you do, the more reasoning ability you will have in your subjects as well in school. And the last one is pretty simple, real world value. The more debates you do, the more you can do problem solving skills. So companies and jobs value this a lot, and the more decisions you'll be able to make in your real life as well. I see a message in chat that you want to actually learn debating. The reason why we're covering this a lot early is because if we directly take you to debate, it'll be a lot more complicated. And a lot of people just directly leave debate because they think that this is a complicated activity and it's not as important to college, especially because you can't do one debate, 2 debate, win a debate, and you get into college. And so we have to give you the incentive first before, otherwise you won't know what you're doing. If we don't tell you why what you're doing is very, very important to your own life, you probably won't have an interest in what you're doing. So the reason why we're telling you this is because as debaters, we think it's important to incentivize you first before telling you what debate is. But yeah, that's why we told you this before. Obviously feel free to take in screenshots and you can look at the recording afterwards in order to get more information about this as well. We can move to the next slide, and we'll start with something a lot more interesting, which is what are MUNs, because ultimately MUNs are inherently like collective debates and a lot more complicated than just one debate itself, because there are far more varied ideas and topics that can come in between different countries in an MUN than in an actual debate. So let's first cover an MUN because it's a little more on the complicated end, especially because it has a lot of different things than a debate itself. So we can move to the next slide and look at what is an MUN. The first thing it says on the slide here is an MUN is a simplified version of the United Nations being conducted as a simulation in the real life. Basically, it means that the kind of discussions you would see at the United Nations and similar discussions that you would probably see in the Indian Parliament, in the British Parliament, in the House of Commons, in the Canadian Parliament, those kind of discussions, if you were to do as a person right now, representing those people at an international stage, is what we call a model United Nations. And the reason why we say it's a model United Nations is because it started as simulating the United Nations conversations in the real life as students. But today, and the kind of MUNs you'll see today are not limited to the United Nations. They can be about the Indian Parliament. They can be about the Canadian Parliament. They can be about a lot of different organizations. They can be about the World Bank as well, right? So obviously the World Bank is a part of the United Nations, But at forefront, we think that United Nations is just like, oh, the big group of 190 plus countries that is there, and all of them coming in and discussing at once. That's not all. There are so many different committees, so many different formats in an MUN. That is why, like in an MUN itself today, there are a lot more challenging formats that you have to encounter than just doing a United Nations, than just doing like a simple, very generic United Nations committee, which is the UNGA, the United Nations General Assembly. And so an MUN, in simple terms, is a simulation of the United Nations in real life. MUNs can occur both online and offline. There really isn't a limit to how we can do, especially because of how much access we have to be able to communicate to people online today. And so they can happen online and offline as well, but just an idea for you to know on how MUNs and debates run. The second thing was, obviously, like I said, it has different formats and different committees. That's not very challenging to know and understand, but I'll put some names of committees in chat that you can actually look up on Google and check yourself. One is the UNGA, which is the most basic United Nations committee you will find, the General Assembly. This is basically all the countries coming at once and talking to each other based on a very generic topic. It's not specific to any committee. It's not specific to any idea. Second one is DISEC. DISEC is the second committee of the United Nations. This is only and specifically focused on security issues. So any issues about war, warfare, real-time challenging international conflicts, geopolitical warfare. This can also include, is not limited to, because we haven't seen any kind of that happening explicitly, but technological and AI warfare as well has been discussed in DISEC. Biological warfare is a very, very common topic in DISEC, but that can also come up there as well. There's also a very similar committee to DISEC known as UNSC, the United Nations Security Council. The only difference is in the UNSC, there are currently only 5 permanent members that get to make votes and decisions, while the rest of them are not permanent members, so they don't have any decision-making powers as much as the 5 permanent members. We call them the 5P or P5, usually in MUNs actually, and they are your US, UK. I mean, you can easily guess these countries, but I'll still list them out. US, UK, France, US, UK, France, Russia, and China. Let me just put that in chat. So these are your P5, permanent 5 countries. They're part of the United Nations Security Council, and they're the ones that make up all your voting. So literally the issue of, let's take a very common issue, Russia-Ukraine's war, right? All of the war discussion of Russia-Ukraine and all diplomacy of Russia-Ukraine's war is currently being discussed in the UNSC. And the reason why we have not come to any resolution in the UNSC is because each one of these 5 countries have equal power, and they have something known as the veto power. Veto basically means that if I don't agree with what's being discussed in the committee, I can just say no, and no one will have to follow it. So for anything to be passed in the UNSC, it has to be unanimous. All countries have to agree to it before it is actually passed. But whenever the US, UK try to push forward a diplomatic policy for Russia to stop its war and invasion of Ukraine, Russia just vetoes it, and it never really works out. So that's an important thing about the UNSC. There are a lot of other committees as well. Someone, Kushi just put in WHO, very famous committee, World Health Organization, all health issues, coronavirus, or future pandemics, issues about like people living in poverty and their healthcare issues, disease spread, anything related to health can come up here. And you guys are putting in a lot of committees yourself, so that's great. You guys can feel free to put in other committees, and other historic committees can also be there, other specific nuance, niche committees that you might not be aware of. You can see them in chat because I feel like everyone here has a lot of knowledge on them. So these are a lot of good committees coming in. UNESCO is for, UNESCO is coming here. NATO is also there. UNHRC is there. So there's a lot of like Human Rights Council. There's one for, there's NATO. NATO is obviously a specific group of countries from the Western Hemisphere of the world, which is North Atlantic Treaty Organization. We have SOCUM, which is for your social cultural issues. UNDP, which is a lot more economics-based development program. UNEP, specifically one. In fact, UNEP is a lot more recent than all of these other committees because environmental problems have become far more important now. So we have UNEP committees coming up, United Nations Environmental Program. And yeah, everybody's putting in the chat. So we'll not go into them now specifically, but you can see a lot of examples coming in chat as well. So that's great. And yeah, so these are different committees that you can run in an MUN, and there are 4 different formats that you can come into. But what is the main goal of an MUN? What do you even do in an MUN? As it says in the slide, an MUN is just basically a bunch of problems are given to you as different countries. And it's kind of like, it is a simulation. These problems may be currently occurring. They may have occurred in the past, or they may be something that might become a big problem in the future. I'll give you all these 3 examples. Let's say a problem in the past would have been the World War II, right? There can be a MUN committee, a historic MUN committee, where you're in World War II, you're the Axis cabinet or the allies allies cabinet, and you're just the allied powers, the Axis powers, discussing on what should we do to win the world war from either one of the sides, right? So you have a bunch of problems at your hand. You have economic problems, trade problems, warfare problems. Obviously, your people are in poverty, your people are probably losing lives, your people have healthcare issues, all of these kind of things are happening. And environment is the least of your goals in the time when the World War II was happening. You don't care about the environment at that point. So there are a lot of things that are happening, a lot of discussions that can happen if this was a historic committee. So there are a lot of problems that are there. Another type of committee can be something that's more recent, right? Something that's more current. So any committee based on like the Russia-Ukraine war can bring up a bunch of problems, and you have to find resolutions to that problem as countries at hand and debate on those different kind of problems. And a committee in the future, now it's not necessarily like real future, but a committee in the future can probably be one for like climate change becoming completely inevitable and destroying the earth. Or a committee in the future can be something related to space, right? Climate change, or for us to be able to move out of the earth and set up home base in Mars or something like that. So that can be a committee in the future for a space program that can allow all countries to go up to Mars and live in Mars, something like that. So that can be also a different debate itself on different problems with living in Mars. Or problems on leaving the earth as it is and just trashing other planets, and any other kind of discussion that you might have on like this topic itself. So you can have topics in the past, you can have topics in the present, and you can have topics in the future as well. Time frame of these topics don't really matter in MUN. The debate, however, does matter. Irrespective of any topic you're given, you have to debate on these problems. What I mean by debate is that your country, as I said on the slide, each person is called a delegate. A delegate means you are representing someone, and it's not always a country. In the slide, we say a country because for you, especially if you're just starting with MUNs, you'd probably go to a more generic committee where you're just like learning the basics of an MUN, a little more basic rule-based, like a more default kind of a committee where you have just generic rules. And so you represent a country. However, in more specific nuance MUNs, wherein someone just posted a good example of this, Netra posted this in chat, Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha does not require you to represent countries. You can't represent countries in Lok Sabha. Obviously, you represent MLAs, you represent like politicians in Lok Sabha, you represent lawmakers in Lok Sabha. So you obviously don't represent a particular country, you represent a person in Lok Sabha. And so basically you're still called a delegate, but you can represent different kind of countries, you can represent different like views and stances. The more important thing here is that every delegate itself in an MUN has their own views and agendas and allies and stances. Basically, you still have your own beliefs as a country, as a person that you want to fulfill. And that's where the debate starts. You have certain beliefs. A lot of other people have different kinds of beliefs themselves. That's where the debate exists. You want to show that your beliefs are more important. Your beliefs should be valued in the committee more. And you want to put forward policies related to those beliefs. You want to put forward ideas related to your own beliefs. And you want the committee to discuss on your beliefs, especially. And so generally, that's how you create a debate. And in an MUN, you have two ways of doing these kinds of debates. One is known as a moderated caucus. A moderated caucus, now these are just complicated terms, but they have very, very simple meanings. So don't worry at all if you don't understand the term itself, just understand the meaning behind the term. Moderated caucus is basically a time in an MUN given to you for doing formal debate. Literally formal debate, where you come in, you speak for 1 minute, 2 minutes, and give your speech, and someone else comes in from another country, gives their speech, and we go on to depending on the list we have for the speakers in the entire moderated caucus session. So it's basically the period of time frame where people are just giving in speeches and responding to other people's speeches. And obviously, if allowed, you can ask in questions or to other speakers as well after they're done with their speeches. Unmoderated caucus is literally no debate. You can just go ahead and talk to other countries. This is the time where you want to go ahead and make solutions in an MUN. Because let's say you've done all the debate that's possible on the topic. You've debated on the economic areas of the topic. You debated on the warfare areas of the topic. You debated on all political aspects of the topic. Now you're done with all the debates. People have found out after your debate that maybe this side is better, maybe this side should be supported. On this economic idea, it's better to debate on or like support this policy more than this policy, whatever. And you guys have like some basic consensus that everyone, like the 150 delegates that you have in the MUN, agree upon, or if not agree, like have some basic idea of the goal that the committee should be moving forward. Once all that stuff on debate has happened, you want to form solutions. You want to form different resolutions to all the problems that you've discussed in the entire MUN, and you want to be able to list them out in a document called the draft resolution. So I'll put that in chat, draft resolution. So you want to figure out everything that you've discussed in the committee, every problem that you've discussed in the committee, and you want to find solutions to those problems. And the formal document you create, once you create like the solutions to the problem, is called the draft resolution. We call this a draft resolution is obviously because it's not been passed, it's not been in effect, it is a draft technically. But also we call this a draft resolution specifically and more importantly in an MUN as well, is because even in the United Nations, whatever resolutions or treaties that they're creating are initially called draft resolutions before they become treaties and resolutions countries have to follow. Each country then signs these draft resolutions, and once these are signed, they are legally and by the like doctrine of the United Nations required to follow that. And obviously, if you don't follow that, there are certain consequences that other countries can do. For example, if Russia did sign a document or a draft resolution in the future to consent to the fact that it's going to stop all its operations in the Ukraine and Crimea region, stop its war in Crimea, not going to annex any more further parts of Ukraine, not going to have a war in Kyiv, then if Russia like 2 weeks later starts a war again or puts up military personnel there by mistake, by accident, or intentionally, for whatever reason, US and other countries have some obligation to be able to do whatever consequences they want out of that written on whatever the draft resolution was framed out of. For example, the US could like do a lot of sanctions. Other countries that sign this resolution can do sanctions. They can probably also like have some form of intermediary action by sending in their own troops as well. So all that kind of stuff can be done as part of consequences for the draft resolution. So any kind of solution on how we should do the solution and what the solution is comes in your draft resolution itself. And that's basically what you do in an MUN. Obviously, we're not telling you specifically on what will happen in an MUN because there are different committees and then there are the specific things that you do in different committees. So if we give you a generic idea, it'll be hard for you to do this in an MUN yourself if you go to an MUN tomorrow, because it depends on the kind of committee you're in. Should we give you like different kind of views and what you should do for those different committees? And that's why we've not made this specific to any committee in particular, but we've talked about all committees in general. So you're able to do well in all of those committees and you understand what is the main idea in any committee for that matter in an MUN. Obviously, in our next session, we will go ahead and talk about specific committees. We'll talk about the basic UN committees like UNGA, DISEC, and then move on to crisis committees and more nuanced niche committees if you choose to go into them, because they're a little more challenging, a lot more rigorous as well. We can move to the next slide. So the next thing was pretty simple. This is just an incentive for you to see. Obviously, we want to win in an MUN. We want to have some form of recognition that we did well in an MUN. And there are just largely 4 main awards that you get in an MUN. Other awards from, these are 4 known awards for the best MUNs, especially in Harvard and Yale's own MUN, but also for general MUNs, the UNA procedure follows this format of giving these 4 awards. There are, of course, other awards that are created like Best Position Paper Award and other awards that you don't need to worry about right now, but they are there in an MUN, depending on the specific MUN you go to. If you go to a school MUN, it might not even have verbal mention, but if you go to the Harvard MUN, they have verbal mention, for example, and so on and so forth. You can have different awards, but these are 4 different awards that we are telling you in general. First one is Best Delegate. You win the MUN. You're literally the best person in the MUN itself. That's called winning the MUN. Second is High Commendation. It's very close to Best Delegate. It's like literally second in position, but there can be multiple people who get High Commendation. They don't necessarily like need to be like only one person winning High Commendation. It's not second place. It is like winning. If you could not be the Best Delegate, you would get High Commendation if you were up to par, but it's not one person getting the award. There can be multiple people who get High Commendation as well. And if someone's messaging in chat in general, like if they don't, like they know what an MUN is, that's great. You know what an MUN is. The problem is a lot of people joining in don't, and we want them to like know about MUNs in general. And also we want to give out tips. So if you already know about an MUN, that's awesome. And you can feel free to leave, and we're going to talk about debate as well. And you can always feel free to contribute. But please don't write stuff like that in chat. That's ultimately harmful to everyone, and we don't want that. If you want to be a good debater, please learn to respect other people and what they're doing in their sessions as well. A lot of people don't know about MUNs, but yes, that's fine. And we don't need to start a discussion in chat about this. But yes, coming back to awards and an MUN, Best Delegate is top. You only have one Best Delegate. High Commendation is like second and third. And you can get like multiple people and High Commendation. Then you have Honorable Mention and Special Mention, which is like you are going to be recognized as a formal award, a certificate that you did well, but you did not do explicitly well enough to be the Best Delegate. Usually people who get Honorable Mention did like very well in debates, but they don't do well in talking to other delegates. And that's why we give them honorable mention, because it's easier for you to be able to give individual speeches, but it's harder for you to be able to talk to other people, because you have to talk to like 10, 20 people at once. Then they just give a speech yourself that's pre-prepared, which is why they get honorable mentions. Which grade is best to start and participate in MUNs? Honestly, like if you just want to know, there is absolutely no like limit to start MUNs and debating. I personally started when I was in 6th grade, but I wish I could have started in 4th and 5th. The younger you start, and if you have a child that's young, or if you're someone who's like 14, 15, 13, the younger you are, please, it's like chess. If you see like people starting in at a much younger age, at age 4 and 5, they become world champions, they become grandmasters, similar like that in MUNs and debate. Because the thing is, the younger you start, the less restrictions you have in your mind, the less you know about the world. As teenagers, as myself personally, or any teenager we have today, we have already built strict assumption on how the world should exist in, and what we should do, what is right, what is wrong, what's bad, what's good. And because of these assumptions in our mind, we cannot like be open to different ideas. We cannot be diverse. We cannot have like different kind of ideas yourself, right? And that's bad, because if you do those kind of things, then we're not able to do a good debate, because we're not able to like think of different perspectives and creative ideas in a debate in MUN itself. So the younger you start, the more creative you are, the more open you are to use like different kind of ideas, and the better you will be able to participate. Of course, you'll have more practice. And so if you start at a young age, and if you do consistently for like 10, 20 different MUNs, at least like in a month or in 2 months, with the amount of rigorous practice you'll have, by the time you reach your like high school, you'll be probably one of the best MUNers and debaters in the country. Like the reason why most debaters and MUNers aren't that good is because it's too lazy for us to do that much prep, and too lazy for us to participate in MUN so often. But if everybody just spend like 30 minutes just doing an MUN or debate on some form of practice, you'll become like a best MUN or debater in the world. That's why like less people do that in the first place. Where can we attend such sessions? As MUN's experience will make us better. Oh, we will do our own MUN, by the way. We're expecting about 1,000 people to come in for that MUN, and we're going to host our own MUN. So you don't need to worry about like doing MUNs, but in the sessions that we'll be doing later on, we would give you a lot of opportunities to do drills. And if you join our Discord group as well, there are so many drills we're putting up there, so many questions we're asking you every day. We recently started this thing called Debate of the Day, where we ask you a question and you have to give us different responses to that. That's how you get more experience to do better in MUNs and debates. And we have our entire team that's ready to give feedback to you. So we're asking for video drills. We're asking for drills that you can do and give us feedback on that. I'm not taking any more questions from chat because I want to cover the rest of the session, but we'll take questions at the end as well. And lastly, verbal mention. Verbal mention does not give you any kind of certificate. Verbal mention is just recognizing that you did good in the MUN, but not enough to get any certificate eligibility. You can move to the next slide. Tips to win best delegate. These are all written over here. These are explicit tips you only get with like experience, and the more MUNs and debates you'll do, the more sort of these things you will know, especially if you're doing it for the first time. But here are some general things that you can do to win best delegate in an MUN. The more you research, the more knowledge you have, the more arguments you have, the more responses you have, the better you will do in MUN. Very simple, very obvious. Second is debating well. Please remember, MUNs are debates. You can't be giving the same speeches again and again. And the problem in MUN happens is that, oh, I came with like a 50-word pre-prepared speech for a minute, and I don't have anything else for content. And like if someone else gave a speech before me, oh, and they covered like literally the same thing I was going to say, I have nothing to speak, I will not speak up. That's bad. You need to know how to debate. You need to learn how to debate. Even if someone gave your exact same copy-pasted ideas, it's fine. Give some responses to those ideas. Build up on those ideas. Think about different things or nuances they missed in those ideas, and make a speech on spot. In an MUN, in a debate, you're supposed to be on spot. That's literally the skill we're trying to teach you. So you have to debate well. You have to give responses. And trust me, a lot of people aren't taught this in MUNs and debates in general, because there's no sort of book that tells you that you are supposed to move the committee forward. But if you just do a lot more MUNs, you'll figure out that in MUNs and in debates, you should be moving the committee forward. You should be responding to other people. The chairs, your people who are judging you and marking you, value this a lot, because they see this as the only opportunity for us to be able to see a different kind of topic emerging in the MUN, see something new emerging in the MUN. If you ask someone a question, if you respond to someone else in the MUN itself. The third thing is negotiating well. This is literally a skill of like diplomacy and United Nations. The very fact the United Nations is creating is because countries are negotiating to create a group where you're able to work together with different countries. Someone asked this question in chat. This is important, so I'll just take this up. Moving the committee forward means responding to other people so that you're able to get more responses, and rebutting to other people so that you don't remain on the same discussion. For example, I gave a speech on why we should support the death penalty. someone else also, because we are all different countries, and because there's so much diversity, there's probably going to be someone else who's also going to support the death penalty. They also came up and said, okay, I support the death penalty as well. What's the difference between these two speeches? How do I give a win to one country versus another country? That's where you have to move the committee forward. Because again, there can be 50 more speakers that come up and say, okay, it's good to support the death penalty, but it's literally nothing we're getting then in the committee fruitful, because everybody's giving the same speeches. The difference will be then, if one person comes here and gives me a speech where they say, okay, I support the death penalty, the next person says, this person, this country, let's say the country was Russia, right? Russia said, we support the death penalty. If US comes up, they're like, okay, we support the death penalty as well, but Russia said something that's bad. Here are 3 responses to what Russia said. We don't agree with what Russia says. That is what is called moving the committee forward. You're literally trying to push the people to think more. You're trying to push the debate more, because you're actually creating the debate in MUN. Because we don't want these to be like pre-prepared speeches you've like memorized and giving. Otherwise, it's not different from public speaking. It's literally no different from like giving your speeches in schooling environments. We want you to give like speeches on spot and respond on spot. There are times that okay, we'll take up these questions in chat at the end. There are a lot of questions coming in. That's great. But we want to cover the stuff first, so that a lot of stuff will be answered as well while we cover it in general. But we'll take up these questions at the end. So please just hold on to your questions and we'll look at the chat at the end as well. Yeah, so negotiating well is important. We want you to negotiate in an MUN. The unmoderated caucus time is literally given to you to talk to other people, to negotiate. Negotiating literally means convincing other people to go onto your own side, or even if you can't convince them 100%, at least getting them to support your ideas or agree with your ideas and you agreeing with their ideas. So negotiating is literally what it means in English terms. It's just a social skill that you learn by just talking to more people in an MUN. The fourth thing is doing what the chair wants, appealing them. So whatever chair is your judge who's marking you in MUN, and before they start an MUN, you can always ask them, what are they looking out for the committee? A lot of MUNs and debaters don't do this, especially in MUN. They don't ask the chair, what does the chair want to see in an MUN? Because every time you're going to get someone who's completely different, who has absolutely no idea who you are, obviously, but has some different ideas on how they want to run the committee. I might run the committee in a way where I want to see a lot more debate, because I'm personally a debater and I prefer a lot of debate, even in an MUN. But let's say Yana might prefer a lot more stylistic speeches, and she might be looking out for stylistic speeches. But Lavi might prefer more speeches just based on economics than based on like warfare. And so asking me, Lavi, Yana, what we prefer to look out for an MUN is going to get you to win more best delegates, because ultimately these are the people who are marking you. Chair is the person who's marking you in an MUN, who's your judge. He's the person who's going to give you an award. They're not going to speak anything. They're not going to give your speeches. They're just there sitting at the frontmost table while everybody come here and speak to other delegates. While your discussion and everything is going on, the chair is the person who's marking you, who's going to decide who gets the award. So chair is your judge in an MUN, and knowing what they want, what answers will the chair give? The chair does not give you any answers. So knowing what the chair wants is what is going to help you win the award ultimately, because that's how you appeal to them. So please ask them what the chair wants. They'll help you a lot. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? You can always ask the chair what they want to see directly. And if you do that, you will be more likely to win the best delegate. It's a very good tip. A lot of people don't know this. That's why we're sharing this out with everyone here. We've also given here the name in every part, be more active. So basically this means, and that's why we're trying to make you like take notes of the session, because a lot of this stuff in the PPT is just like blank words, which will not have any meaning if you don't listen to what I'm saying. So please try to take notes. It'll be far more fruitful if you understand what I'm saying directly. So more importantly, you should try to get your country's name in any and every part and like every discussion you're having, so that your chair, the person who's marking you, giving the award in an MUN, knows that you're being active in the committee. If you don't say anything in MUN, you can't expect to win, of course. If you say something, but you don't say, like you say on the first day of the MUN, you don't say anything on the second and third day, you will still not win anything. If you're active for all 3 days, if in the draft resolution, your name as your country is coming up, let's say it's saying that Russia wants to do this policy, or Russia is being discussed a lot in the moderate caucus debates that's happening in an MUN, then Russia is probably a big part of the discussion. What does this mean to the chair? What does this mean to the person who's judging you? It seems to them that you as a delegate have so much influence over the committee that everybody's only caring about you. And that's literally and such an important social skill, because to be able to convince 100 people to just debate on Russia or just debate on one person, one topic, and bring up your name, your country's names at so many places is very tough, very hard, because you're trying to get a lot more people to care about you. It's very hard to do that. But the moment you're able to get your name, and the moment you're more active in your committee and your chair sees that, they know that you're a very influential delegate, a very influential person, and you will more likely be able to win the best delegate. The second last thing here is compromise. Compromise means please don't be strict and stringent to your side in MUN. No country is strict and stringent. Even the US has different sides it wants to take, and the US will never come up to India and be like, okay, we'll only do a policy which benefits the US. We're not going to do a policy which benefits India. No country is going to do that. That's just generally bad because no one will support that country in the first place. So you have to compromise a little bit. The US will probably come to India and say, we will do this policy, some trade policy, a bilateral trade agreement for that matter, in which, let's say, US gets more rice imports from India, but US will also compromise on getting more rice imports from India by, let's say, giving India the opportunity to join in some NATO organization, or giving India or pushing for India to become a permanent 5-member, or permanent 6-member for that matter, in the UNSC Council. So US is compromising its own ability and credibility by helping India in front of all the members of UNSC and pushing India to become a permanent member in the UNSC for getting rice from India and getting rice imports. Now that's just a general idea, like a simple example, but the point here is that you should be willing to compromise and give up some bit of what you might agree with. You should not be extreme. What if we do not compromise? That's just going to reduce your chances of getting best delegate. So you should be compromising. Don't think of being strict from one side, because nobody wants to see a debater and an MUNer who's only standing their ground. It's very bad because you're not being diplomatic. The whole idea of being a diplomat is that you agree with what other people say. You also have your own views and you try to reach a conclusion. And that conclusion is what is caused because of the compromise. One side compromises, the other side compromises, and then you come to some form of agreement where if I compromise on this thing, you compromise on this thing, then we have some peaceful solution at all at the end of the day. And so compromise is very important. That's very a diplomatic skill in the first place, and everyone should have that. The last thing is adapting. It's very similar to moving the committee forward. Adapting means that you should be able to give responses and do things based on what's happening in the committee. So for example, if I speak from Russia and Lavi speaks from the US and Jenny speaks from India, and we've all given different speeches. Now the next speaker, let's say Avira, is coming up and giving a speech from Japan. Avira should not be giving a random speech that she's prepared months before for this MUN. No, that'll be absolutely useless. Nobody cares about that speech. A better speech would be Avira comes up and gives a speech based on what I said as Russia, what Lavi said as US, and what Jenny said as India, and she responds to what Russia, US, and India said, and then gives her views as Japan. That's called adapting to the MUN. That is literally debate. You should not be giving pre-written speeches. You should only be giving pre-written speeches on the first day of the MUN or the first hour, 2 hours. After that, MUN is on spot, and you have to adapt to what's happening. Structure of an MUN speech is a very good question. We'll actually cover that in the next session because we don't have much time to cover that right now, especially because we also want to go up to debates. But if you join in the session tomorrow, we have a session on argumentation and how to make up good arguments, where we talk about structuring speeches for MUNs and debates. So that's something that we'll definitely be covering over there anyways. So feel free to join in tomorrow. We put up the link of that in chat at the end of the session as well. You can just register for the session tomorrow and figure out how to give an MUN speech, a proper MUN speech, a structure of an MUN speech, and a structure of how you give an argument as well. We can move to the next slide. Yeah, what is truth is a very simple question. Because we don't have much time, we're going to skip this. We can leave this. We can go to the next slide. It's not that important. This is important. So the next thing we're going to talk about now is WSDC. This is a very, very, very famous format of debating. It is known as the World Schools Debating Championship. It is highly recognized. If you do even a couple of debates in this, it's going to be very, very valuable to your college profile. So please keep this in mind. This is a very famous format for school level debaters. And we will send the link for tomorrow's session. You can register over there. But this is a format that you can do a lot of competitions in. So let's just look at what WSDC is. You can scroll to the next slide and let's just discuss a little bit about WSDC. So WSDC is a debate format. A debate format, again, as we all know, debates are different from MUNs. Debates only have teams. MUNs are people who are talking about different topics. So in a debate itself, you have usually 2 teams, one team that supports the topic, one team that is against the topic. Similarly, in WSDC, you have the same thing. World Schools Debating Championship. There are 3 speakers for the topic, 3 speakers against the topic. The 3 speakers for the topic are known as proposition speakers. The 3 speakers against the topic are known as opposition speakers. The 3 speakers for the topic have different speaking positions. Some of them speak first, some of them speak second, some of them speak third. Similarly for the opposition side as well. And there are different names that are given. So if you see on the slide, it says PM, LO, DPM, DLO, GW, and OW. These are different roles of each speaker. Every speaker does not have the same role. Ultimately, that will ruin the point of a debate. You're supposed to give different things as part of every speech. And note, the alternative order is followed in each of these speeches. PM speaks first, then we go to LO, then we go to DPM, DLO. So it's alternating between first speaker from proposition, then first speaker from opposition. Proposition, again, is the side that supports the motion. Opposition is the side that is against the motion. Proposition is also known as the government side. In many debates, you'll find them named as the government bench. So that's also something that's important. You should keep that in mind. If you find them named as the government, nothing different. They're also the same side, because the side that supports whatever the topic is the side that exists today. And we call them the government because the government is what exists today, versus opposition is that's the side that's trying to change the government, change what is existing today. And that's why we just simply call them the opposition. In proposition, we have the three speakers named as Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, and Government Whip. That's why we call them PM, DPM, and GW. Prime Minister gives your first 2-3 arguments. DPM gives your additional argument, but responds to LO, and Government Whip does not give you any new arguments. They only give responses and rebuttals and refutations, just giving responses to what everyone else has said. So by and large, what that means is the Government Whip, the third speaker from proposition, is literally an on-spot speech. You cannot prepare for the speech. No matter how many times you can do debates, you will probably never have a prepared speech properly for this speaker, because this has to be responsive to what's happening in the debate itself. There's no experience required for WSTC, by the way. There's no experience required for any MUNs or debates. You just go to them once and you do them a lot of times, you automatically gain experience. There's no barrier limiting to WSTC. This is a format, this is called World Schools Debating Championship, because it's supposed to be for school students and to introduce them to debates, which is why you don't need any experience. As long as you have the willingness to be creative and you want to enjoy and you want to learn about different topics, please come to the debate, and you can automatically, almost at any place, just do these debates yourself. From opposition, we have three speakers as well. We call them the leader of opposition, the deputy leader of opposition, and the opposition whip. Leader of opposition is the first speaker, deputy leader of opposition is second, and opposition whip is third. Same roles as your proposition, but just keep in mind that every other speech after the prime minister, after your PM, is a responsive speech. It means that you have to respond to what the speaker before you says, and then give you additional material. Obviously, in the last two speakers, which is speaker number 3 from proposition, speaker number 3 from opposition, you cannot give any new arguments, you cannot give any new materials. But from the other speakers, you can. But all speakers are still supposed to be responsive. Every speaker is still supposed to respond to the speaker before them. So opposition speaker responds to speaker number proposition 1. Proposition speaker 2 responds to opposition speaker 1, and so on and so forth. And yeah, we have different speaker timings, etc., but we can cover that later as well. We can move to the next slide. So here are the rules for this format in very basic terms. There are a lot more nuanced, complicated rules, but we don't want to make this complicated because we want to cover everything in just the remaining time we have. So we'll make it very simple. There are two parties in this debate, as we told you, opposition and proposition, very simple. There are 3v3 matchups. So 3 teams on prop, 3 teams on op. The speaker time for each speaker, each of these 3 speakers, is 8 minutes. Now, if you think 8 minutes is a very short time for speaking, that's a good thing. You should have enough content to go to 10, 20 minutes. Debates have a lot of content you can give. If you're oh my God, 8 minutes is so much time. How can I cover 8 minutes? I can probably only barely give a 4-minute, 3-minute speech. How can I go on speaking for 8 minutes? That's okay. The first time, if you do WSDC, you will probably not be able to make up a speech even more than 4 minutes. And that is fine. The more debates you will do, the more arguments you will know, the more people, the more things, the more you will know about the world, and the more speeches, content of speeches you will be able to give yourself. So don't worry about reaching the 8-minute barrier right now. 8 minutes is just the limit to the amount of speeches, the amount of time you can take for your speech. There's also something known as the reply speech. Reply speech is an additional component of the WSDC format. We're not going to tell you what the reply speech is right now because it's a little more complicated and challenging. So for now, we've simplified the format as 3v3, 3 people for prop, 3 people for opposition, and each of them give 8-minute speeches in WSDC. We can move to the next slide. We'll answer your questions in chat, by the way, guys. Don't worry about it. Here are just some general reasons on why you should do WSDC. They are the same as why you should do debate, so you don't need to worry about them. We can go to the next slide. And by the way, we'll be sharing all these slides as well with you guys anyways. We can take up this slide. You can move to the next slide. The parliament slide is fine. So similar formats to WSTC. There are three main similar formats that we have to WSTC. The first one is known as the British parliamentary format. This is a very actually not start with this because this is actually a little bit different to WSDC. The most similar one is Asian parliamentary. It's the same thing as WSDC, but we don't have reply speeches. And that's why we're telling you that right now we've simplified WSDC to Asian parliamentary for you to make it easier to do debates, because reply speeches are a little more complicated parts and we don't want you to cover that right now. But the second one is, and by the way, Asian parliamentary is a format that a lot more university level debaters do than school level debaters, especially because debate first started at university level, then at school level. And that's why the only like format we have for our school debates is WSDC. And that's why it's called literally the Schools Debating Championship, because it's this format specifically made for school students. The second format is Australs. Australs is a format only for university level. You won't be able to do it right now. But you can definitely do it at university level as well. We want you to be informed of this so that you never miss out an opportunity. It's also the same as WSGC 3v3. And the last one is British parliamentary. This is a more challenging format. This is also starting at university level, but there are competitions. You can do them at school level as well. But this is a little more challenging format. In this, instead of having 2 teams, you have 4 teams, 2 support the side and 2 are against the side, but all of these 4 teams are still against each other. Now it's a little more counterintuitive, right? You have 2 teams supporting, 2 teams against. So how are like all 4 teams still competing against each other? And how does one team even win in this if there are 4 teams participating at the same time? So that's why there's a little more additional knowledge required for British parliamentary. We won't cover this right now because that's a completely different format, completely different idea. That's why we started with WSDC. WSDC is the most basic format you should know and learn for debating. And tomorrow, the session we'll have tomorrow on how to make arguments will be specifically based on WSDC. You can just go over there and learn about like WSDC from a session tomorrow and learn how to make arguments in the WSDC format. We can move to the next slide. Yeah, so this is just basically about the session tomorrow, because we're almost at the end. We wanted to spare the last 20 minutes for questions that we can answer from everyone. The session tomorrow will be on argumentation. How do you make arguments? What even is an argument, right? We've heard this term so many times in our life, but half of the people don't even know what an argument even means. Some of them think that an argument is just a reason, like why we should support the topic, why should we against the topic. Some of us think an argument is something we do with our parents or with our friends, but that's not what an argument is. That's a lot more emotional stuff more than arguments. Arguments are logical, they require reasons. What you do with your parents and your family and your friends is a lot more emotive, a lot more like debates on Maggie and all of that stuff probably won't be argumentative, they'll be emotional based. So please don't confuse arguments of what you do in real life. It's a little more formal, and we'll explain what an argument is. We'll tell you how to think of arguments. It's a lot harder to be able to make arguments. Why should we support the death penalty? Why should we be against the death penalty? We'll tell you to think of these kind of things, what you should be thinking about to make arguments as well. All streams can benefit from, I'll just take that question up. Third thing is how to make arguments on a certain topic. So we'll give you certain stock arguments you can always run for MUNs, for debates on different topics about economics, politics, etc. What are some basic arguments you can run at any place? And lastly, and more importantly, we'll tell you the structure. So someone asked the question, how to structure speeches for an MUN? This is the answer. We'll cover this in the session tomorrow. How do you structure an argument? And most of your speeches are argumentative in an MUN or a debate. So if you know the structure for an argument, you know the structure for a speech yourself anyways. And I think the next slide is just for, we can skip the GK slide because we want to answer questions. So thank you so much for joining in the session. We'll answer the questions right now, and please stay back for the questions because there are a lot more questions that have come up in chat and a lot of important questions, and we want to answer them. If you look at the slide right now, all 3 of our important details are given here. You can always mail us and ask us questions. We also have the Instagram account linked over there. We're putting all these links in chat. I think they've been pasted now. Thanks, Shruti. And all of these links are important links for you to be a part of our organization. Our YouTube channel as well is there. But please fill out the volunteer form if you want to work with us. Right now, we had Jana and Shruti a part of our organization, and thank you so much for them like join in and help us. Jana's been preparing the entire PPT. She's been presenting the PPT. Shruti's been in chat. She's been answering the questions. She's been putting in a lot of your links as well. These are people who are part of our organization and doing all the work for making debate accessible to so many students across India. So if you want to join our team and work with us, you can always come here and fill in this form, the volunteer form, and we can take your responses in. We'll tell on Monday who gets selected and who will be working with us as well. I'll now be sending in the link for you to register. We'll obviously circulate this on mail as well to everyone, but please register right now. If you can immediately, just go up to this link and register, because it'll be hard for you to check the mail tonight since the session is directly tomorrow as well. I think at the same time at 6 p.m. So I'll just send the link as well to register on that. And yes, both these workshops are certificate workshops. But tomorrow's session is also a separate certificate workshop. So you will get a separate certificate for the session tomorrow, not the same one. So don't worry about certificates and everything, and we'll mail you all the certificates as well. We've taken note of who's kept their camera on, and anyone who's informed us for the internet issues. But keep your cameras on. We are taking group photos for everyone. So you can feel free to smile, do whatever technology jazz you want to. We'll put this up on our Insta as well. But yeah, we're taking photos. So keep smiling for like 2 more minutes. We're taking photos from everyone. Just give us a second. We'll be putting this up on our social media. Just go up as reels, funny stuff that we put up on our social media as well. And obviously, if you work with us, you'll come up a lot more on our social media anyways. Just 1 more second. Let me just put all the people in. Yana, you can stop sharing and we can go ahead with questions. So anyone till now, anyone who has questions, otherwise, please raise your hands. We can look at the questions in the chat at the end, but we'll take up your questions directly. So you can just speak them out to us and we'll take them up. So just raise your hands and we'll take up your questions. Okay, perfect. I've noted down everyone who's here. Please raise out your questions. We'll wait for a minute and take them up. And I'm just going through the chat, seeing if you have questions. What if your school does not have a debate team? Well, that's where the teen debater comes in. We're most probably going to come to your school and launch a club over there where you can create debate teams. However, we're also starting our own tournaments and we're sending out teams from our own places. So if you just become part of the team debater, we will create your teams and you can create teams with anyone here you want to take up as your partner, and you can come from an organization and participate in the tournaments under the name of our organization as well. So don't worry about finding teams or getting teams or not having a debate team from your school. We would probably be coming in. But it's more important if you can inform your school yourself directly that you know the teen debater, you want to start up a debate club. If you show up this initiative in your school, this is very, very good for your college profile. You should try to create your own debate club in your school, and you can always ask the teen debater. We can send you resources, everything. We're happy to do that. We're anyways a not-for-profit, so we don't want you to have any limitations to any debating resources. So don't worry about starting teams in your school, but just join our organization and we'll be sending you to different competitions as well. To participate in WSGC, there are at least 200, 300 tournaments that happen for WSGC every year. And we have a list of 1,000, 2,000 tournaments that happen in different debating formats. All of them have been listed according to different dates, months, and starting years as well. So we'll be sending that up to you for participating in competitions. So don't worry about how to participate. We inform you every time on where you can participate as well and how you can for different competitions. If your school doesn't agree with that of starting your own debate club because you might be too small or anything like that, don't worry. We'll come up in and we'll make sure your school agrees. We'll try to convince them from our best on how much we can get your school to start a debate club. However, if at any point your school is not able to start a debate club because of some or the other issue, and that's okay, we understand that a lot of schools might not be able to do that with the current kind of things that they might have, then don't leave, don't do that. You can always be part of the teen debater, and we are anyways representing you at many international national competitions. We're sending our students for Harvard, Stanford this year. We're sending our students for Oxford schools and Cambridge schools as well this year. So just be part of our organization. You'll get an opportunity to join anyways at that point over there as well, even if your school doesn't agree. So that's totally okay. You got no questions. Oh, that's awesome. If you don't have any questions, you can always feel free to leave. You can still stay back for the next 10 minutes because we might answer a question or give out more information from these questions as well. So do stay back up till 8. But if you have any other questions, please feel free to ask. This is literally an opportunity for you to ask anyone here, ask about anything related to the teen debater. And yeah, so we'll take the questions in chat a little bit later. I'll first take up with the people at their hand. So Charishma, just go ahead. Whatever question you have, please feel free to speak.
Hello, Shivansh. So as you said, I'm Charishma. And my question was, so can you really change your stance if you're representing a country that is against the actual stance of the country? Because, for example, if you're representing Russia and you're being scrutinized by all of the countries for participating in the war, so can you end the war or you have to go by the actual country's stance?
Yeah, that's a very good question. If you're Russia, be like Russia. If Russia is asked 1,000 questions from US, UK, Russia doesn't give a shit. It says, we don't care. We'll still continue the war. Russia does not care at all about what it's doing and will still take actions. So in an MUN, you should always try to be the country that you are actually representing. Don't be pushed by others. Don't be tackled by others And because, yes, like as Russia, you have the most controversial stance in an MUN about the
Yeah.
fact literally starting a war. But that's okay. You're Russia. You know you started the war intentionally. You wanted to start the war, and you did this by yourself, by your own country's national, social, and local integrity. So you should be okay with that. And even if 1,000 countries ask you to stop the war, you don't really care. So don't change up the stance of your country. You can always adapt the stance based on what's happening in the debate. For example, if the debate does become about, let's say, maybe a lot more like economic stuff with Russia, then you might like change the stance based on what other countries are saying. And that's where the compromise part comes in. But the whole idea is you still agree with Russia's own foreign policy. So you would never go ahead and be like, okay, US and Russia are now going to be best friends. We're going to have 10 bilateral trade agreements and we're going to do all economic benefits together. You can't do that as Russia. But you can probably be like, okay, we will still continue the war operation in Crimea and in Ukraine. But however, we might reduce the amount of military personnel we have over there on certain days or on certain activities or for certain reasons. That's okay. That's compromise. But don't like extremely go ahead and change your stance. That's a problem. And especially when you're given like controversial countries, don't go ahead and like be pushed by other people. You will be pushed by other people a lot in an MUN, but the whole thing is, and trust me, the whole part of an MUN is just being confident. The more confident you are with the country you're representing, and the more you feel like that you literally have an entire nation's power at what you say. Be confident about that and say whatever you want as Russia, as long as it aligns with your stance, and don't feel scared by changing your view because someone else tells you to do so. The whole point of an MUN is to go through this rigorous procedure and see how well you react as a person. And if there was a Russian delegate at your stand as well, they would not say anything. They won't really care of what US says. They would do literally what is the best for Russia. So think of Russia as your own country when you're representing Russia. Think of that as the state that you value the most and do whatever is best for the state. Never agree with other countries, especially if it comes at the cost of your own state as well. But yes, compromise is still there, but don't go extremely and change the stance completely. That's just something that's important.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The next question I have is Chitrangada. Just unmute you one second. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
It's Chitrangada.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. Yeah, go ahead.
No problem. As somebody who really wants to participate in these debates and MUNs, I feel like if I tried to participate once as well, but I prepared everything, I had all my materials, I knew I had prepared well, but the idea of participating and performing in front of a huge audience just like makes me so nervous that I forget everything. It's like kind of a nervousness and everything that just makes my mind blank. So it's like, since I feel like everybody must have felt this, so any sort of tips for something like this that can help prevent?
Oh, don't worry, Chitrangada. That's literally a problem I face till date as well after doing MUNs for so long and debates for so long. There's not going to be an opportunity for you to not be scared. The whole idea, the more scared you are, at least we know you're not a robot in an MUN, and that's okay. You should feel scared when you go up. You should feel a little nervous, and that's just normal and sensational. That happens to everyone. The important thing here is that if you do MUNs for consistency for like 10 MUNs in a month, or like a debate every weekend, you will start feeling less scared because you just have a lot more practice. You will feel after doing at least 100 debates, the 101st debate you go to, you have so much knowledge that whatever topic you get, you'll be like, okay, I know this. I've been doing this for a long time. And even if you feel consciously scared, your brain still has all the information that you've been debating on. So you won't forget all of that. It is scared to start and speak at first. It is scary to speak in front of 100 people, but it's less scary to speak in front of 100 people if you've done it 200 times before as well. So it won't really make a difference if you practice a lot. It's just a matter of practice. You won't feel scared. There's no other solution to solving the fear of public speaking. It's like one of the most common phobias in the world. I can't possibly give a solution to that. I'm not a psychologist, but I can tell you that you can just be a good person who practices a lot of MUNs and you automatically feel less scared. But there's no chance you can feel like not scared at all. But if you practice a lot, you'll enjoy it yourself and you'll do it even if it feels scary just for the thrill of it. So don't worry, scariness comes with MUNs and debates anyways. But you'll get rid of it once you just do it a lot more.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. I'll take a question from Lavi and then Chahat.
Okay, so oftentimes in MUN sessions, no matter how much you have prepared, there are always going to be, rebuttals and questions. And sometimes you can't really answer those questions well. So how do you respond to those?
If you have, okay, so that's a very vague question because I don't know what response and rebuttal you're looking
for. It's not like a particular topic you've researched on that much.
Okay, so if you don't know anything about the topic yourself, then I would just say randomly give whatever information you want to and try to strawman the topic, because ultimately in real life, if a country did not know about the topic as well, they would probably strawman it. A lot of politicians, when they give answers to questions that they don't know, they try to we don't want to like say this out loud, but they will obviously try to dissuade away from the topic. They'll use a lot of logical fallacies and do it in a very clever way where they think a person still looks like they know everything about the topic, but really they're just changing the topic. So you can always do that kind of stuff and try to win from there. But also, if you have no response to the topic, you can still say that you have. Okay, don't go ahead and explicitly say you have no response. But however, what you can do is you can give a okay, so there are three like generic ways you can give a response, even if you have like absolutely no knowledge about the topic. One is just try to prove whatever statement someone has asked you is just not true and try to relate it back to your country. You'll be able to do that. That's very simple. The second one is, and this is the more easier response, whereas like even if whatever they're saying is true, unless you have absolutely no response to that, just say what your country is doing is better and explain why your country is doing it in a better way. That's also a very good way of responding. But lastly, like if you don't have any response, let's say they ask a question on your country. I'll take an example of what someone gave in chat, right? Someone asked me a question on what is Russia's response if it is criticized on declaring war against the Ukraine. Just for your foreign policy. Russia's response is Ukraine is a part of Russia. Ukrainians are inherently Russians. All people and Russia, by annexing Ukraine, is benefiting Ukraine. You don't need to give any reason for why Russia is benefiting Ukraine. You're Russia. Who asked you to give you a reason? You have your own national integrity to protect. You're not put on a legal stand where you have to give a reason and all the other countries will prosecute you. Russia's anyways being done that. All the other countries are hating on Russia and they're trying to do a lot of bad stuff to Russia. Doesn't matter, because you're your own country and you care about your own people. You will say whatever you want, and there's no need to give always a reason for whatever you're saying and to prove that it's justified, because ultimately you're supposed to represent your own country's view at the most like strongest ground you can possible. And so if Russia was asked a question about declaring war against Ukraine, I personally would just say, so what? Yeah, we declared a war against Ukraine because Ukraine is part of Russia, and we believe that we should have whatever a state that is part of our own country in our own occupancy. So we will take over Ukraine. Also, they literally said this: we are invading Ukraine for the benefit of Ukraine because currently Ukraine has neo-Nazis. And so we are doing this because we want to benefit the state of Ukraine itself. And that's why Russia is invading Ukraine. So, I mean, you can give a lot of responses, try to connect it back to your foreign policy. You'll be able to rebut it yourself. Even if you don't have any like response directly from your own research. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Keshav, we'll take your question.
So am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. Go ahead.
So basically the thing with me is in a debate, when I try to counter something, so I'm not able to think about the content which I should say to counter the situation in the given time limit. So what is your opinion? What should I do for that to improve myself?
So I mean, I just answered this question right before as well. Countering the same thing as rebutting. Like I said, there are a couple of ways to rebut. One way of rebutting as well is just by proving whatever they're saying is not true, thinking of reasons why it is not true. But yeah, I agree it is a lot on spot, and people can ask you questions on spot. The easiest way to like answer a question if you don't know is just change the topic. A lot of us do this in real life as well. Like if your parents ask you a question on something you don't have an answer to, you try to change the topic, you try to talk about different things so that your parents don't scold you, right? Same thing you can do with the country. It's not that hard. Politicians do it all the time. I mean, that's why you're able to like answer questions that you have no responses to. But otherwise, even if you don't have a response, you can always like connect it to some other topic, find some linkage between another topic and just start talking about that topic. That's also a way you can change the topic. But this is absolute worst case that you have zero responses. Ideally, you should be preparing in such a way that you have some decent response. You should be preparing with so much research that you can have something to say, even if someone asks you a question on this. And so if your preparation goes all the way, you'll be able to answer most questions. But if worst case, you don't have any responses, just change the topic. And more importantly, just don't be like, I don't know the answer. Don't ever stutter, and always just confidently respond with a smile, because the fact that you're able to confidently respond with a smile to hard questions shows that you already have enough knowledge about that question to the judge, even if you don't. But more importantly, it shows your confidence, and confidence is very, very valued in MUNs, because the whole idea is MUNs and debates are challenging, they're rigorous, they're meant to break you down, push you down. But if you're not being broken down, if you're still confident at the end of the day, you're already doing your best part in the MUN and you're already on the way to winning the best delegate. So give something, say something. Just don't ever be like, I don't know the answer. I'll answer this later, or stutter and stop. At start, you will do this, and that's okay, obvious. That's okay. But the more you practice, try to say something. Don't get don't get nervous because of what someone else is saying. Just give some response, and you're still on the good end on winning the best delegate. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Sure. Thank you so much.
No worries. Chair, yeah, go ahead with your question.
Hi, myself Chahat. I wanted to ask, like, till now I have been participating in debates. What is the procedure for that?
So for you to go ahead and wait, are you asking how to participate in debates or?
Yeah, no, for MUN, what is the procedure to get into that?
Okay, so there are a lot of ways you can get into an MUN. You can obviously get into MUN through schools. A lot of your schools will probably give you information on MUN. If you don't, there are a lot of good MUN groups you can join, which regularly circulate MUN information. Because we know a lot of these people who are part of different groups, and because we have already 500 to 600 members of part of the team debater, we have access to a lot of MUN groups and a lot of MUNs happening every weekend in India, in Gurgaon, in Delhi, in Jaipur, in almost all cities across India. So if you're part of the team debater, we'll give you information on that regularly anyways. So just stay connected to our organization. You'll always get that. And also to just participate in MUNs, we host our own practice MUNs as well, our own MUN tournaments. So just join in one of those and you'll get a great practice from there, because we have 1,000, 2,000 people coming in, which can always be ready to debate with you and give you good practice. And for bigger MUNs like Harvard and Yale, they happen once a year. We open registrations for them later on, and we will send you registration details as well. So ultimately, just listen to your school. Your school will give you a lot of information. The more MUNs you do, you'll have access to a lot of MUN groups. Please make friends at MUNs. They also know about different MUNs happening. So if you just ask them, they can also give you information. But lastly, just stay connected to the team debater, and we'll also give you information as well. Perfect. Any other question, guys? If it's a question related to how to do MUN's debates, you can also ask that. That's fine. But any specific questions regarding the session, something you did not understand about logic, rationality, debates, WSPC, MUNs, best delegates, types of MUNs, anything regarding that? Because tomorrow's session will be a little more complicated. It'll actually be a lot more complicated in the sense that we'll do a lot more specific stuff. So just keep that in mind. So please clarify anything that you want to clarify regarding the session as well today. Yeah, Parvi, go ahead.
So usually in MUNs, we are asked to like move the committee forward, but then how exactly do we do that?
Like I said, respond to other speeches. Every time someone gives us a speech, try to go. So that's why we never tell you to go first in a speech. If you go as a first speaker, everybody will respond to you before, and then your speech will be redundant. So try to go as like a third speaker, fourth speaker, or after some speeches at least, so that your speech looks like you're trying to participate in the MUN. So the first thing is give as many responses possible. Be refutive. Be someone who's being giving a lot of rebuttals. The second thing on moving committee forward is that if the committee is talking about economics for the past 10 moderated caucuses, change the topic. Okay, you've done a lot of debate. In 10 hours of debate, there can't be possibly something left for you to cover in economics. Change the topic. Be like, okay, I feel like we have debated economics a lot. Let's move on to warfare, or let's move on to politics or something else, right? So if you take up initiative and you literally say yourself, I think we should move to a different topic, then that shows initiative. That's you specifically moving the committee forward. The chair will credit only you and uniquely you in that, and not someone else. That's how you move the committee forward. But yeah, the more you do it, you'll already get practice anyways. Any other questions, guys? Yeah, Lavi, go ahead.
What's the difference between point of order, point of information, inquiry, and logical fallacy?
So logical point, there's no point of logical fallacy.
No, just like logical fallacy.
Okay. Logical fallacy is generally like an error in the logic of an argument. So there are different kinds of logical fallacies. One example is, a very famous one is, if I'm giving a debate speech, I start attacking you, Lavi, as a person, your personality, who you are, what do you do for a living, whatever stuff like that. Instead of attacking your argument, wherein you said the death penalty should be abolished because of so-and-so reason. That's a logical fallacy called as ad hominem. We see that with politicians today as well, right? Instead of talking about actual topics, they start attacking other politicians rather than attacking what their argument. is. So attacking the arguer instead of attacking the argument is ad hominem. That's an example of a logical fallacy. Another logical fallacy would be, let's say I'd say that, okay, Yana today likes ice cream. Since I only know Yana personally, I think everybody likes ice cream. Or let's say 10 people in my family eat pizza. I think everybody in the world is eating pizza. That's called hasty generalization. Just because 10 people in my family like and eat pizza does not mean everybody in the world has to like pizza and eat pizza, right? So that's a logical fallacy where you take a very small sample and you think the rest of the world also follows that small sample. So these are errors in arguments. These are quite like simple, intuitive, logical errors. Those are logical fallacies. Point of information, point of inquiry, or point of order are things you do in an MUN. They're not logical fallacies. Logical fallacies are a way for you to rebut arguments or find points of flaws in arguments from which you can make up questions that you can ask in POIs or in POOs. Point of order is you asking a question in an MUN about the procedure of the MUN being followed incorrectly. For example, if an MUN in an MUN, the chair starts randomly like putting up a disco and starts dancing, that's not what an MUN is about, right? But if that certainly happens in an MUN, you can obviously raise up a point of order saying that's wrong. That should not be happening in the MUN. Or if the chair incorrectly like gives the chance to another speaker where you might have been given the chance to, but it was supposed to be the chance of Yana, or it was supposed to be the chance of like Shruti, then there's a point of order that can be raised by Yana or Shruti saying that the order has been messed up in the MUN. Point of inquiry or information is when you want to ask a question to a delegate, not to the chair. So these are questions you ask to the chair, not the questions to be asked to a delegate. If you want to ask a question to the delegate, then you raise a point of information or inquiry, where like based on your speech, I want to ask you a question, so I'll raise a point of information or inquiry. That's the difference between POI, POO, and your logical fallacies. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Dishaya, go ahead.
Yes, so I had a question regarding how should I get elected or how should I get selected to the secretariat or any of the managing committees, like such as suppose I want to become a UST. So what should I do?
Managing committees for sorry, I'll let you unmute again. Yeah, go ahead.
For MUNs.
So you want to be part of the secretariat for an MUN? Is that right?
Yeah. Or suppose a UST, something like that.
Yeah. So if you want to be part of the secretariat, you should ideally have like an experience of 10, 20 MUNs at least, so that you have an idea of how MUNs work. If you already know that, that's great. Ask your school to make you part of the secretariat. If your school already has secretariat, talk to those people. And because they're the people who usually select the next batch of secretariat, if you have good relations with them, they'll select you in as well. Otherwise, if there's no MUN secretariat, try to take the initiative in your school. However, when we do our own MUN, our secretariat will be made up of people who are part of the teen debater volunteer organization as well. So if you just join our organization, you'll be the secretariat of an MUN of about 1,000, 2,000 people, which will look good on your college application as well. So just register with us for the volunteer form and work with us, and you'll automatically be part of the secretariat as well. To work as well. As long as you have a decent idea of how MUNs work and generally know about different committees, etc., that's fine. But you don't need to have very specific knowledge, because you might not be the person making a committee. You just might be the logistics person or the social media person as well. That depends on your skill completely. But you can work with us as well to host MUNs.
Thank you.
Perfect. No worries. Manik, go ahead.
My doubt was mainly regarding tomorrow's session, that the arguments we will talk about, how to structure arguments, will it be focused only on the UN committees, or we will also talk about the Indian committees and other types of committees?
And arguments don't have any specific ideas or how to focus on them. Arguments are just logical statements and how you think of these logical statements in support of a side or against a side. However, when we talk about arguments in certain specific topics, as I said on the slide, wherein like talk about arguments of economics, politics, then it will certainly be useful in Lok Sabha, as well as it will be useful in a UN SC committee, because both of these committees will in some form or the other talk about economics anyways. So obviously we can't go specifically into every committee and dissect it, but because that will be useless anyways, because all of these committees have just generally similar topics. And if we talk about topics of economics, politics, then you have arguments necessarily. You don't need to know arguments about UNSC or Lok Sabha in specific. There's no much difference. Just know economic arguments and you will be set anyways.
Okay.
Perfect. Any other questions, guys? And please note, we have put in the link again and again for the registration for the session tomorrow. I'm pasting it again. Just click on this link. It should open a form. We'll also be putting this up in our Instagram bio right after the session ends, right after we close this entire call. And you can register from our Instagram bio. We'll be sending out the information to everyone who's been registered with us for this session in email as well, so that you can join the session tomorrow as well. But please note, the session tomorrow will be a lot more specific in detail about making arguments. How do you make arguments? And it'll be a lot more debate and MUN specific than the session today, because we wanted this to be more of an introduction than for you to join our series of classes. Because now you guys have an introduction of how these classes run, where we ask you questions, what do we do, how do we engage you, all of that stuff. From tomorrow onwards, it'll be a lot more specific and a lot more debate-related discussions. And please note, you'll be participating a lot more tomorrow. We'll be asking you questions directly. We'll be asking you to make arguments in 5-6 minutes on spot and give us speeches as well from tomorrow. So please join in the session tomorrow. It'll be a very important session for learning how to make good speeches for your MUNs and debates that you'll be doing in. We'll also try to do a formal debate tomorrow if possible, but we'll definitely do speeches and ask you to make arguments anyways. So you put that registration link in the chat. You can fill that up. We've also put up the link again to all of our different links that you can go to work with us, to join our Discord, to find our Instagram, everything, our YouTube channel. I've put that again as well. Look at all of these links, see if you're not in one of them. As long as you're joining at least 3-4 of them, you're there in our database, we can contact you. It just makes it easier for us to get you back in a session tomorrow or day after. So please fill in one of these links and we can get you for our sessions in the future as well. Follow us on our Instagram, ask for your parents to follow us on Instagram if you don't have one, and you can automatically join us and join any one of our sessions. I think our Instagram link is wrong, so we'll just change that. Just got information from someone. It is the Team Debater, not Team Debate. The link might have been wrong. And the session tomorrow, as Yana pointed out, is from 6 p.m. It'll go up till 7:30, not till 8. It's just 1.5 hours. We don't need anything more than that. Well, we'll specifically just cover arguments and argumentation and argument making and do a lot more activities, which is why it stretches up to 1.5 hours, because we want you to speak and have practice as well. And we do these sessions regularly. The recording of the session will be put up on our YouTube as well. So if you missed any part of the session, just look back at the recording. You can always know what happened in the session as well. And obviously feel free to share it with others. Yeah, Abhinav, go ahead.
Yeah. So if I were to apply for volunteer, can I pick more than one committee?
Yes, please feel free to. We will assign you to a committee where we think you fit the best in. So it's always better for you to pick in multiple. You have a higher chance of getting into at least one committee. If you don't pick anyone, and if you only have one, then your chances lower down. So just choose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. Please fill our volunteer form. That's also been put in chat. It's a very simple form, hardly like 5-6 minutes if you want to work with us. We've got a lot of people working with us. It's very fun to host these sessions. And more importantly, from next time, if you see in our future sessions, we will give chances to other people to host the sessions as well. We might get one of you guys in and you'll be speaking and hosting one of our sessions for us as well during months of May, June, and July. And so please fill in our volunteer form. We'll be very happy to help you and have you work with us. And obviously, we'll be doing physical sessions in a lot of your schools. We're doing a physical session on 27th March as well. We'll let you know when and where. But we're doing a lot more physical sessions and coming to different schools. We'll probably be coming to your schools as well and doing debate sessions over there. So if you join with our volunteer form, you will be traveling with us to go to different schools and participate live offline with these schools and helping debaters get over there and making debate and MUNs more accessible to people over there as well. So please fill out a volunteer form. It's a very good way for you to build up your college profile, work with us. We give you letters of recommendation and we give you certificates for working with us for over 6 months as well. You can work in the management, you can work in organizing, social media or technology, whichever committee you prefer, and we'll add you in over there. Yeah, Abhinav, do you have any other question? I am assuming not. Yeah, you've lowered your hand. Perfect. If you guys have any other questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining in. We've already extended this 11 minutes over. So please stay back if you have any other questions. However, thank you so much for joining in. Feel free to drop out and we'll see you in the session tomorrow. Keep debating, keep anyway, and yeah, follow us on our Instagram page. But we'll see you in the session tomorrow. Feel free to leave. Stay back if you have any other questions. And yeah, all the best for your future debates and MUNs if you have any coming up this week, next week, or afterwards as well. See you guys. Bye-bye. We'll be closing the call if we don't see anyone else in. Awesome. We'll end the call now. We don't see any questions. Thank you for joining in once again. And the recording will be uploaded live on YouTube. Bye-bye. And